A calling is something that you feel like you were born to do something that you feel like you were meant to do in life. It's not something you're doing for other people's approval. It's something you're doing because it's who you really are. What's up, everyone? My name is Karp, and I help people find their purpose. So today, I'm going to help you find your calling in life. We're going to talk about what a calling is. I'm going to share with you how I found my calling. I'm going to give you some examples of callings, and I'm going to walk you through 5 steps to help you find your calling in life. So let's dive right in. All right, so what is a calling? A calling is something that you feel like you were born to do. It's a calling that typically comes from within to do something that you feel like you were meant to do in life. A calling is kind of like picking up the phone and hearing who you were always meant to be talking back to you. Hello? Yo, so you're who I was always meant to be. Wow, you sound happy. That's basically what it's like. It just feels right. It just feels like this is what I'm supposed to do with my life. This is who I'm supposed to be. And it just feels right on so many different levels. The reason for this is because it comes from who you are within. Your calling isn't something that you're doing just to make money. It's not something you're doing for other people's approval. It's something you're doing because it's who you really are. It's who you are at a very, very deep level of your personality and your heart and the way your mind works and just who you are in the entirety of your being. This is why when people find their calling, it's a life-changing moment. You know, there's the time before you found your calling and the time after you found your calling. So the same thing happened to me. There's the time before I found my calling, doing a whole bunch of things that weren't really my calling in life. And there's the time since I really clarified my calling and said, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to follow my calling. I'm going to commit to it. And now I'm doing it every day. So my calling is to be a writer. It is something that I've been good at since I was a kid. It's something that even runs in my family. My grandfather was a writer. He was a journalist and he wrote a few books, I believe. And my dad has always been a very good writer and he was always helping me with my writing homework when I was a kid. He would teach me sentence structure and all these different things. And it's something that really just came naturally to me. And it was one of the things I was naturally best at. However, in school, writing is just a skill usually. It's not something that people talk about as a career. And so I always just saw it as a skill and I never saw it as a future potential career opportunity. And of course, I never saw it as my calling. I only really started to see being a writer as my calling when I learned what a calling really was. A calling, yes, it's something you were born to do. It's something you feel like you're meant to do. It's something that just feels right to you. But that definition is very, very vague. It's hard to really just figure that out without more information. So when I learned what I'm about to share with you right now, it really made finding my calling and identifying it very consciously super easy. So a calling is typically made up of 3 different parts. It is what you love to do, what you are good at, and what the world wants or needs or how you can help others. So the magic really happens when you combine all 3 of these things. It's not just what you love to do, it's not just what you're good at, and it's not just what the world wants or needs. It's all 3 of these things combined. And if you look at a lot of people who are following their callings, they typically tend to be doing all 3 of these things. If you look at an athlete who is following their calling, if you look at an artist who is following their calling, if you look at anyone who's really following their calling in life, it tends to involve all 3 of these things. So when I learned this by looking at the purpose Venn diagram, which I'll put up an image right here. And you can see in the middle there, somewhere it says calling, and it is a combination of where you're good at, what you love, and what the world wants or needs. So when you combine these 3 things, you really have a very powerful potential calling in your life. So for me, I'm not just good at writing, I love writing. It's very fun for me. It's an artistic expression of mine. And of course, I'm good at it. Like, it's been a skill that I've had for a very long time. It's also a skill I've developed and worked on a lot. And it's something that I use to serve others and to help others, right? I've written a few books, and I write for my blog, and I write content that helps other people and serves them in some way, right? So that's what the world wants or needs part of it. So real quick, let's break down these 3 aspects of a calling. I'm gonna give you some examples of callings, and then I'm gonna walk you through the 5 steps you can take to figure out your calling in life and start following it. So first part of a calling is what you love to do. Typically, when someone is following their calling, they enjoy it. They love doing it. There's a lot of intrinsic value involved. It's something that they care about, and it's something that they are usually passionate about. The love energy is the motivating force that gets them to act and do it. It's not just the result of the work, right? A lot of people work just for money, and there isn't a lot of love in what they're doing. When you are following your calling, there's a lot of love in what you're doing, which means what you are doing brings you value, and the result of what you do brings you value. So you have value on both ends of the spectrum. A heck of a lot of the reason why most people aren't happy in their work is because they're only getting value on one end of the spectrum. They're getting value when they get their paycheck. They're not getting value from what they're actually doing to get the paycheck. So this is why a lot of people want to find their calling so they can get value from what they're actually doing to receive the money as well. It's like when I wrote my books, I loved writing my books, and I receive money when someone buys them. So I receive value on both ends of the spectrum, on doing the activity, following the calling, doing the thing that I enjoy, and getting paid for it at the same time. Next, your calling is usually something you are good at. It's a gift, it's a talent, it's a skill, it's a strength, it's an ability, could be any of these things. So essentially, it's something that you are either naturally good at. This is how a lot of people find their callings. When they're a kid, they're just naturally good at a certain sport. Or they just try something randomly one time and they become just like a savant. They're just super good at it. But this is a very random way to find your calling. It's not a systematic step-by-step way. And when you're good at something, there tends to be another intrinsic value to doing it. Doing things that you are good at tends to feel really good, and it just tends to feel right. So when it comes to identifying a calling, one of the things you can do is you can look at your strengths right now, you can look at your gifts, talents, and abilities right now, and the things you're naturally good at. But I would urge you to look outside of the usual skills and strengths that are valued in school and in the normal professional corporate type of world, because your calling may be way outside that, especially if you're in the corporate world right now and you don't like it. It probably means your calling has to do with something else. And the third part of a calling is it is what the world wants or needs. In today's day and age, the world wants and needs a lot of things. This isn't just like charitable work or like sacrificing yourself for others. Entertainment, it is food, it is information and empowerment. Like, the world wants and needs a lot of stuff these days, which is a very good thing if you're trying to figure out what really makes you happy in life. If you're trying to find your calling, if you're trying to find your purpose, this is a very good thing, because there are a lot of problems in the world that need to be solved. People have more and more and more desires that they want to fulfill, and this means that you can find a deep sense of purpose and a very powerful calling in helping to fill these needs in the world. I know I have certainly found a lot of purpose and a lot of fulfillment in helping people solve their problems and fulfill their desires, like what I'm doing right now. All right, so those were the 3 aspects of a calling: what you love to do, what you're good at, and what the world wants or needs. So let me give you some quick examples of some different types of callings, which might get your mind going, get the wheels turning, And then I will walk you through the 5 steps you can take to figure out your calling. All right, the first group of examples are artists. There are lots of artistic callings. This is musicians, dancers, painters, graphic designers, video production, movies, TV shows, writers. There are so many artistic callings in the world that art is definitely something that's trying to express itself. The energy of art is like trying to express itself in the world through us as human beings. And there are so many different types of artistic callings, and new types of art are being created all the time, especially as technology starts to evolve, and new ways to express your art, and new ways to get an audience for your art, and new ways to monetize your art are happening all the time as well. We've really never been in a better era for the majority of artists to make some type of living from what they do. From some type of living from their art. I'm starting to follow this guy right now called Nic D, and he teaches independent musicians how to make money from their music. He has like 4-5 million monthly listeners on Spotify. He's totally independent. No label, no manager, no agent, none of that stuff. He's built his audience, his brand entirely himself over the last like 6 years or so. And now he's teaching other people how to do it. And I'm starting to learn from him to follow my music passion for music production. That's kind of like my side hustle. And so thanks to technology and thanks to our ability now to connect with people all over the world and show our art to them and build an audience and build a fan base, there are way less gatekeepers now than there used to be for artists to follow their calling and actually earn a living from it if they want to. So artistic callings are huge. A lot of people have these, especially people who don't know they are artists. I did not know I had any artistic talent or skill whatsoever because in school all we did was drawing and we did painting and I sucked at that. My drawing was whack and my painting was. But something that I always wanted to do was learn how to produce electronic dance music. I found the right person to learn from on YouTube, this guy named Memphy. And I took his course, and within 10 days, I made my first song that I was actually happy with, and I published it, and I said, this is a dream come true. Just the ability to make a song that I like was a dream come true for me, and an expression of a part of my art that I had within me that I had no clue about growing up. So a lot of people may have an artist within them that they've been carrying around their whole life, an artistic calling, and have no clue just because they haven't had the opportunity or they haven't exposed themselves to that art yet. Even it's just a lack of that self-perception to see themselves as an artist. Like I have to kind of shift my mindset a bit to see myself as an artist, to see my writing as an expression of my art, to see music as an expression of my art, because I never saw myself as a musician. I saw myself as a writer, but I never saw myself as a musician or a music producer. And I'm loving it. It feels amazing. And now I'm starting to shift that perception because I want to build a fan base and an audience and a side income following that passion. All right, next we have teachers, educators, guides, mentors, coaches. This is all kind of in the same vein of teaching callings. Right now, I'm engaging in sort of a teaching calling. A lot of YouTubers are engaging in this calling. A lot of podcasters are engaging in this calling. Any sort of school teacher, any sort of coach, life coaching, like all types of coaching is blowing up right now because it's super, super aligned with a lot of people's callings and a lot of people's desire to serve and help others. There are mentors and there are sports coaches. Like this is typically a very powerful service-oriented calling. Teaching takes a lot of energy. And any type of teaching, coaching takes a lot of energy. Like you are there, you are focused, you are here to help that person and you're giving all of your energy to them and you do it because you love it. because you love to serve and because it's who you are. So teaching is a huge calling. A lot of people are following this right now. And there are, again, thanks to technology and thanks to how our society is starting to advance, there are new ways to engage in this calling. You don't necessarily have to be in a classroom in order to follow your calling as a teacher. All right, next we have healers. These are, of course, doctors, nurses, etc. But there are also alternative healers. There are people who are just kind of relationship healers, helping them to heal internal wounds, helping them to heal traumas from the past. There are lots of different types of healers. I lived in Costa Rica for a while and I met a ton of healers. Just that whole town was filled with healers, and not necessarily doctors and nurses. So there's kind of the common perception of what a career looks like. And now there is sort of an expanded perception of what a calling could look like. You could follow your calling as a doctor or a nurse to be a healer, or you could follow your calling as sort of like in a more alternative kind of way. Basically what I'm saying is there are a lot more options these days than there used to be. And just quickly, we have entertainers, we have athletes, we have entrepreneurs, and a whole bunch of other people, a whole bunch of sort of archetypes of different types of callings. And I want you to know if your calling or if none of that resonated with you, that's perfectly fine. There are tons of different types of callings in the world, and you can almost identify a unique one for each person, and you might have multiple callings. My calling isn't just to be a writer. My calling is to be a writer, author, coach, and public speaker, mainly in the personal development space. And now I'm following a potential calling as a music producer. And as I continue to learn more and more about myself, I may discover other callings that I never knew existed. So you may have one main calling you follow in your life. You may have multiple. You can have a calling you follow in this stage and a calling you follow in this stage, and a different one in the next stage. Everything I'm telling you in this video is a guide. It isn't necessarily like this is the way that it is. It's more like here is a framework that you can potentially follow in order to help you out. Okay, let's dive into the 5 steps to help you find your calling, and then we will wrap this video up. Step number 1 is to identify what you love. Again, the love energy is the motivation. It's the passion. It is a lot of the intrinsic value from engaging in the calling comes from that love, from enjoying what you're doing. So to identify what you love to do, this is a very deep sort of subject. There are many ways you can go, but my number 1 recommendation is to ask yourself the right questions and write down your answers. So here are a few questions you can ask yourself. What do I love to do? Take 5 minutes, write it down. What am I most passionate about? Take 5 minutes, write it down. What activities put me into a flow state where I lose track of time? Take 5 minutes, write it down. What activities make me the happiest and bring me the most joy? Take 5 minutes, write it down. Ask yourself these types of questions, write them down, and do your best to figure out what you love to do, what really sets your soul on fire, what really you enjoy doing, what puts you into a flow state, what interests you. If that stuff is a bit too much, just look at what interests you. What sort of things are you drawn to? What are you attracted to? Like for me, the big one for me, other than like actually writing, is personal development. I've always been drawn to personal development. I love it. And that is a huge part of my calling as well. I've just been drawn to it for the last 10 years. So pay attention to these things and try to figure out what you love to do, what you enjoy, what actually makes you happy in your life. All right, step 2, identify what you are good at. These are your gifts, talents, strengths, skills, and abilities. Figure out what you are good at. What are your skills? And again, think outside the box. Don't just think about what was valued in school, what's valued in a traditional professional sense, but look at even your intuitive capabilities, your character traits, the way you think, the types of advice people have come to you for and people have asked you for help for. What have people asked you for help for in the past? What have people told you you are good at? You know, again, ask yourself these types of questions, write down your answers, and start to pay attention to what are my skills, what are my strengths, or what are the gifts, talents, and abilities that I want to build? What are the skills that I want to develop? Because even if you feel like you aren't good at anything right now, which I guarantee is not true, but even if you feel like you aren't good at anything right now, you can get good at stuff. You can learn, especially in today's day and age with so much information available. And step 3, identify what the world wants or needs. So like I said, the world wants and needs a lot these days. All you got to do here is identify what are problems in the world. What are the problems people are having? What are people struggling with? What desires are people trying to fulfill in their lives? And how would you like to help fill those needs? In what ways would you love to help others? If you could help anyone in the world, who would you help and how would you help them? Take 5 minutes, write down your answers to these types of questions, and try to figure out how would you actually want to fill a need in the world. Because there are so many needs in the world that need to be filled, and you could be the one to fill them. All right, step 4, identify the intersection of all 3. So here's where you take step 1, 2, and 3, what you love, what you're good at, or want to get good at, and what the world wants or needs, and you combine them together. So as an example, I love writing, I'm good at writing, I can help people with my writing, combine it together, my calling's to be a writer. Simple as that. Or you can say, I love personal development, I'm good at personal development, and I can help people with their personal development. Boom, personal development, part of my calling in life. And a potential calling that I'm exploring, I love making music, I'm good at getting better at making music, and people want and need music. Boom, another potential calling for me. So take a look at your answers from step 1, step 2, and step 3, and see how you can combine them. Is there a pattern there? And finally, step 5 is to write it down and make a plan to follow it. I will always, always, always encourage you to write your thoughts down, write your feelings down, write your clarity down. Don't just keep it in your head, because when people keep things in their head, they're only getting to the surface level clarity. They're not getting to the deep, deep stuff. So write it down. Write down what you believe your calling in life is. Even if you really aren't sure, just write it down. Make a plan, a very basic plan to start following it, to do something about it, to take some action on it, and you will start the wheels in motion. You will get the forces moving in your favor to gain more and more and more clarity over time. That's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped you out. I hope it helped you, give you some clarity, some hope, some belief that you can discover your calling as well. If I can do it, if so many other people can do it, then you can do it too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Oh, by the way, if you want to gain some more clarity, click the link below, download my free self-discovery workbook. It will help you figure out who you really are, what you really want in life, where you really want your life to go, and start building a roadmap to your ideal future. Talk soon.